Okay, Boba Fett, episode 6. And I'm still tempted to call this The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 2. However, Boba was in this episode at least. But wow. I almost want to say there's no words, except I have the words. It was freaking amazing. This is the best from Star Wars that I've seen in a very long time. Wow. I think, just like the last episode, the guest appearances obviously stole the show in this one. I mean, it starts off right away with Vanth, and what a cool scene. What a cool scene. He takes a spice and just kicks it over after sending him on his way. Just kicks it over. When we find out that it's worth more than his town. But that's who he is, right? And that's awesome. They come back to him at the end, which is really, really cool. But we'll talk about that in a second. But back to the Mandalorian. Going to see Grogu. And where, of course, does he go? A very, very familiar face. What are they building? Something that looks very, very familiar. Which I thought was so cool how they're starting to really tie everything in. Tied in with the movies, but like before the movies took place, giving us a little bit of a idea of what happens before. And I think we're about to see everything just get really tied in here in the Star Wars universe. I think they're onto something really, really big here. Because when Din shows up, he's forced to wait a little bit, greeted by R2-D2, but then who does he see first? Ahsoka. And I wasn't expecting to see her. I really wasn't expecting to see her. I know she's got her own show coming up, which is awesome. Can't wait for that. But it was really, really cool to see her. And then it was really cool to see the conversation that she had with Din. It's also really cool to see how much he still cares for Grogu. It's clearly a super deep connection, as is explained by both Ahsoka and Luke. Now, ultimately, Din decides not to see baby Grogu because he doesn't want to make it harder on him. And he loves him, but he leaves the Beskar chain armor there, which looks pretty freaking cool. But then we get to see Ahsoka and Luke interact with each other, which is something I thought was so cool. And then she hits him with that line where she says, "Just like your father." And I'm just like, wow. Like Clone Wars, freaking all the everything's going like crazy in my mind. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like, and I wanted her to say something. Because I'm just sitting there like, you had a super close relationship with his dad. Like, and now it's him. And like, it's just so cool. It's so cool to see everything come like full circle. And I just love that about this episode. And then you have Grogu actually becoming a Jedi, actually moving like Yoda. Like we saw, Yoda walks with his old cane, and then all of a sudden it's time to fight Dooku, and just going crazy, jumping around all over the place, until eventually destroying the training bot. I mean, that was just so cool, and I think the future for Grogu and what we could see from him is amazing. And this whole scene here with Ahsoka, Luke, Grogu, and the Mandalorian, Din, it was the Star Wars that I've missed. And that I felt like we should have had this entire time. Like, that was just fantastic. Now, of course, we go back to Boba and him and Fennec. They're all preparing. And the Mandalorian shows up. And they need more men. Go back to Vanth. And he states his piece. But then what happens? Cad Bane shows up. And everybody, I'm sure, freaked out. The first time we've ever seen him in live action, right? And he looked amazing. Like, the face, his eyes, like, everything looked fantastic. A new bounty hunter in town. And I don't think Vanth is dead because they were patching him up at the end. But I wonder what this means for Boba. And I wonder what it means for the Mandalorian. But I can tell you, they've done a phenomenal job at building up to this final episode that we're about to experience next week. There's a lot that is coming into play here. And now all the pieces are kind of starting to fall together. I'm sure Vanth and some people after Cod showed up are going to be in on this fight, right? I'm sure they're definitely going to be in on this fight. So it looks like Boba's actually going to have some decent firepower. Now, what I would love to see happen is if Ahsoka and Luke and Grogu show up with lightsabers and they all help fight, but I doubt that's going to happen. I really want it to happen, but I doubt it's going to happen. But either way, this is shaping up to be a really, really good finale. Or I should say, it's shaping up to have potential for an insanely good finale. Like, I loved like every part of this episode. Everything was like super cool from start to finish. It was amazing. And it was Star Wars that I hope we get in the future. Star Wars I feel like we deserve and should have gotten all this time. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. What did you think of this episode? I'm pretty sure this is going to be a ton of people's favorite episode. If it's not your favorite, let me know why in the comments down below. And if it is, let me know your favorite part. As always, I'm Warren. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel.